This playthrough is rated M for mature.
Time to find out what our teammates do in their spare time. Greetings and salutations, viewers. Vauldemare back here with another episode of Shadowrun Hong Kong. In the last episode, after finishing the mission, we talked around town, learned some people's stories, and just expanded some little bits of a story here and there, and also got paid for our efforts. Well, mostly. I didn't actually get the money for the job yet. So, let me open up the jobs directory and claim payment for the museum run. You submit the job as finished and wait the response. A few minutes later, a message pops into the screen. Mr. Drake to Wiggles. Well done. You went above and beyond what I asked and liberated some truly precious artifacts. I've attached the payment you're owed, plus a little bonus. I trust you'll keep quiet about what exactly was liberated from Liu's little museum. I'll come collect the books from Conway Chang shortly. Mr. Drake. Alright, we got paid for the job. Yeah, I forgot to do that last episode, so. But anyway, we got another job to do, but before that, let's talk to our companions and get some rest. It is optional, but if you want to get a specific thing to occur, I would sleep whenever the game tells you to, as it says right there. Get some rest. So let's talk to Ractor, see what hell he's doing. Hello, sir. Ractor's shop is sweltering hot, even more so than it was the first time he stepped inside. The whir of actuators accompanies the fine motions of the manipulator arms that hang from the ceiling. They are turning an object over and over in their articulated hands, soldering wires and hammering rivets. My friend, welcome back. Ractor types a series of commands into his bracer, and the arms relax into an idle posture. He smiles at you, a cigarette dangling from his lips. There, that's better. Now what can I do for you? Any thoughts about the last run? I was not there, my friend. I spent my evening enjoying a fine Ukrainian vodka laced with honey and peppers. His lip curls into a wistful smile. Good quality stuff, that. A pity that was my last bottle. Now, what else would you have of me? But yeah, unlike the last game where you can ask anyone about the mission, even if they didn't go on it or whatever, you can, in this game, they actually point out the fact if a character makes it or not, and they might have a little dialogue outside of that. But yeah, I thought that's neat. Because in the last game, no matter who, even if someone didn't go on the mission, they still talk about it as if they were there. So, how are you getting along with the other members of the team? Perfectly well, thank you. They all seem competent enough, and there haven't been any major personality conflicts so far. He rubs his chin thoughtfully. So long as they continue performing to an acceptable standard, I can see no reason not to continue our arrangement. It's good to run with a good team again. Well, sure, alright, but what do you think of them personally? They're fine, I suppose. Oh, fine. Gobbet is quite charming. Isabel keeps to herself, and Duncan is doing his best in a bad situation. Yep, Gobbet is charming. I think she's a fan favorite, if I recall, out of all the characters in this game. There is a momentary pause. He shrugs. And that, I'm afraid, is all I have to say. Apologies if you're looking for more. You're still something of a mystery to the group, Ractor. Mind if I ask you a few questions? No, I don't mind, not at all. He takes a drag on a cigarette, then slowly releases the smoke. I can't promise that my answers will satisfy your curiosity, of course, but you may certainly ask. What was it like growing up in the Russian Republic? Tumultuous, as you might expect. You probably aren't old enough to remember the Euro Wars, but I am. I know bits and pieces of the history, but I didn't live through it. Well, the wars were a formative experience for Russians of my generation. Not traumatic per se, certainly not as they were for the Germans, Finns, and Poles, but important nonetheless. My country was the instigator of the first Euro War back in the 30s. I remember the rhetoric, the hardship of living under a wartime economy, the rampant xenophobia that took hold. I remember how we all cheered when our forces invaded Poland. 3 months, that was all that it took for our military to crush what meager resistance the Poles could bring to bear. It was quite the source of national pride at home. I remember our drive into Germany and the desperate bid to reclaim the eastern portion of that country for ourselves. Just think about the symbiotic significance of such an act. An audacious move, to be sure, but Secretary Kropunin was determined to make history. Yes, in the same way Stalin was. I believe that Kropunin was more concerned with the opinions of his own people than he was with his place in the history books. And in truth, I cannot fault him for this. For the 4 months that the war lasted, he did bring the country together. But alas, the Night's Wrath incident put an end to that march and sent our forces into full retreat. Wait, there were ghosts there? He chuckles to himself. No, my friend, the British aerospace Night Wrath is a fighter bomber with stealth capabilities. These were the machines that rained fire on our troops, or were purported to have at any rate. Nobody has ever come forward to accept responsibility for the attack. Regardless of who was behind it, the result was the same. Wave upon wave of bombings that targeted our forces and the Germans alike, coupled with the assassinations of dozens of military leaders. A devastated and synchronized operation expertly carried out over the course of a single night. At home, viral attacks shut down our power grids. Hundreds of thousands of Russian homes found themselves without heat or electricity in the dead of winter. Crochet scuttles forward, allowing the rigger to rest his hand on the sloping metal of its chassis. Ractor stares at his own deformed reflection in the metal of the drone's body, a sad smile on his face. I remember huddling under a mountain of cheap blankets that my mother had piled up on my bed. They did little to protect me from the cold, but they were something that I could hang on to, something tangible that I associated with warmth and comfort at home. There, as my body trembled, I watched my breath frost over. A horrible truth descended upon me. We had caused this. We were the villains of the first Euro War. For the first time, I came face to face with what Kropunen's folly had brought upon us, and there, under that ridiculous heap of rags, I came to realize that would surely come to pass. The world thought us villains, and so they would treat us like villains. We would be pariahs on the international stage, crippled by retributive sanctions. We would never live down the shame. He wipes his hand as if clearing them. A wry smile spreads across his face. And then the AFA invaded Greece and Spain, sparking off Euro War II. We redeployed our troops to help repel them, and all was made right again. That easy, huh? About. Oh, we were still regarded with suspicion, of course, but Europe might have fallen if it hadn't been for our help. In essence, we took back our reputation at gunpoint. Not an ideal solution, but it worked. Within the span of 4 months, we Russians had gone from nobodies to a terrible threat, to unlikely saviors in the eye of the Western world. Studying exactly how this happened has taught me a great deal about human psychology and social dynamics. Human psychology? You say that as if you weren't one. He laughs. Just a figure of speech, my friend, nothing more. Now, shall we talk about something else? Surely there are more interesting and relevant things to discuss. You mentioned that the Second Euro War was sparked off by the AFA. Who were they? He takes a drag on a cigarette. Yes, I suppose that you wouldn't know. They were only active for the years surrounding the conflict, after all. The AFA was the Alliance of Allah, served under Mullah Sahid Jazir, a coalition of right-wing Middle Eastern governments that assembled after the failure, some say sabotage, the United Islamic Conference. They looked to a weakened Europe and saw an opportunity, one that my country was entirely responsible for creating. So the AFA invaded Europe, but Russia was really to blame. Yes, I cannot blame the AFA for acting as they did. Ultimately, they chose the same path that any hawkish power would have taken, given their circumstance. It would have been foolish of them not to. My country, on the other hand, was guilty of sin. We were the ones who blazed the trail. Well, I take it you beat them. I mean, I haven't heard of the AFA before, so how can things have ended well for them? No, my friend, they did not win. The AFA folded in 37 after Jazir was assassinated. A lucky thing for us, too. The body count could have been a great deal higher. In the years that they were active, the AFA gave us quite a hell of a fight. Did you immigrate directly from Russia to Hong Kong? No, between my years in Nizhny Novgorod and my time here in Hawaii, I spent a year in the free city of Berlin. That was where I got my feet wet as a Shadowrunner, you see. I ran with a team of anarchists for a time and learned the ropes of the occupation under their tutelage. I wonder if the same group that the Dragon Shaman was from. Anarchists, huh? Must have been interesting. He shrugs. It was to the point. They were disorganized, to be sure, but perfectly capable. We enjoyed a certain level of camaraderie where we ran together. Sadly, we were no longer on the best of terms. What happened? An opportunity arose, and I seized it. In so doing, I left Berlin for Hong Kong. I did so without much advance notice. My absence made life difficult for them, and they blamed me for their hardships. You're a grown man. If you wanted to leave, you were under no obligation to stay. Thank you for taking my side, but I can see their point as well. As I said, my departure caused some complications for them. That said, I haven't lost any sleep over it. I merely did what I had to do. He looks away, a wistful expression on his face. Crochet scrapes the ground with its forelegs, its sensors fixed firmly on you. Ultimately, I would say that my time in Berlin was quite educational, different from my earlier life in Russia, to be sure. As I said, the experience was invaluable. Ultimately, though, the Holy is probably better suited to my sensibilities. Really? This place is a dump. But it's an orderly dump. Life is more structured in Hawaii than it was in Berlin. Things didn't make sense here in a way that Berlin didn't. He taps a finger on it to his temple. I have an orderly mind, everything in its place, neatly labeled and filed away. This approach is what allows me to make sense of the world. To say that the people I knew in Berlin thought differently would be an understatement. Why did you move from Russia to Berlin? He holds his tongue for a moment, considering. When we first met, I told you that I parted ways with Grecian Avakor under unfortunate circumstances, yes? Something like that, yes. These same circumstances led me to Berlin. I was wronged, and I would not find any recourse in Russia. He sighs. I suppose there's no sense in being vague. I'll tell you the story if you want to hear it. Please lay it on me. You may remember the self-repair system I mentioned the first time we met, the module that allowed Crochet or any sufficiently equipped drone to repair itself. I told you that my research had been lost. That was not strictly true. It was stolen by a pair of colleagues who I had long considered friends. They were researching for my old lab. They turned against me, stole our work, and in truth, my work, and defected. Why would they do that? Desperation, ambition. They'd always been fixated on getting out of Russia. Grisham Avicor was a nationalized corporation, and they would never get rich as cogs in a government-controlled machine. In our project, they saw their key to breaking away and earning their fortunes. Never mind the fact that I was opposed to the idea. And did you have any leads as to where they might have gone? Yes, the two had long spoken about moving to Berlin. Such was true of a great many academics in Russia. My homeland is a bureaucratic dictatorship, you see. There is little personal freedom, and there are many rules to be followed. As you might imagine, the stable anarchy of the flux state can be an alluring concept to those who live on totalitarian rule. Berlin is much romanticized back home. Makes sense. If you spent your whole life tied up in bureaucracy, you could do worse than live in some place with no rules. Oh, the flux state has rules, my friend. They aren't codified, but they most certainly exist. Should you ever travel there, you'll want to remember that. I already played Dragonfall. But I digress. In the hunt for my traitorous colleagues, Berlin was my only lead. I decided that I would travel there. At best, I could find them, and at worst, it'd be a good place to rebuild my life. There's a squeal of tortured metal as Cochet drags his claw over the iron grating that covers the floor. Raptor glances down at the drone, and it goes calm. He takes a deep breath and continues. It took me over a year to locate my former friends. It was a long, painstaking search, but I was nothing if not determined. I finally found evidence that they'd used my research as a bargaining chip to secure positions at Ares and that they were in Hong Kong. So you came here to Hawaii? He nods. I picked up and left the next day. My old team was upset to be sure. Lucky Strike in particular howled for my blood, but I know where my priorities lie. Lucky Strike is a... for those who didn't play Dragonfall or didn't watch my playthrough, Lucky Strike is a... Although weirdly enough, she was added after. She wasn't in the original game. She was added as afterthought. She was a Shadowrunner you could hire to go on missions, and you could talk to her a few times during the missions. But yeah, that's the reference. Another reference to that. And so here I am, and here they are, and soon I'll be ready to act. I really must thank you for inviting me into the team. Your abilities will be invaluable when the time finally comes to make my move. Assuming, of course, you'd be willing to help. Something tells me that you weren't surprised when I invited you onto the team. You were waiting for this, weren't you? I thought that it might go over better if you believed it to be your idea, and it would seem that I was right. I am on the team after all. Yes, you are, and you're right. I, for one, would be happy to help you when you're ready. Just say the word. Thank you, my friend. This is a discussion for another day. We aren't ready to hit an Ares facility yet, and there's more intelligence to gather before we make our move anyway. When the time comes, I'll let you know. What can you tell me about the colleagues who stole your work? Today, they call themselves Taylor and Hardingham. He speaks through clenched teeth. Cochet drags a claw against the ground, and you can hear the squeal of metal on metal. Those aren't their real names, obviously. They shed their former identities when they left their old lives behind. What were they called when you worked with them back in Grisham at Vicor? It doesn't matter. Those men are as dead to me as they are to the world. My old colleagues no longer exist. Taylor and Hardingham are all that remain. They are targets now, nothing more. He idly brushes Cochet's armored chassis with the fingertip of his right hand. Oh, how wonderful it would be to find them. What a reunion we'll have. This stolen research means more to you than money, doesn't it? He nods his head. Yes, much more. It was my life's work, and it was important. Reducing it to a bargaining chip was a deadly insult, both to me and to all those who would benefit from my work. You say that with almost religious fervor. He snorts. Religious? No, religious superstition is a relic of the past. I welcome the future, a future that my research was intended to help usher in. Superstition. You live in a boat with a pair of orcs, one of whom uses magic on a regular basis. He wags his finger at you. You're putting words in my mouth. I never dismissed magic as superstition. Magic is an observation, measurable phenomenon, as real as the laws of thermodynamics. What I said was that religion, in the classical model, is rooted in superstition. I stand by that analysis. There's superstition in everything. Religion isn't the only thing that has superstition, by the way, folks. And a lot of the way you can consider, a lot of things get turned into religion, despite it not being an official religion. But some people say they aren't religious, but they might believe or tack on to an idea so wholeheartedly they might as well be a religion in their own sense, you know what I mean? Now tell me, my friend, are you familiar with the concept of transhumanism, that the transformation of human as a species by technological means? If you have academic, you can improve the conversation. If you don't have, it's not a big deal, but he'll explain it anyway. Huxley coined the term in the 1950s, I believe. He nods. Yes, that's right. The seeds of the idea trace back even further to the 1920s and J.B.S. Haldane, but it was Huxley who popularized it. And now the transhumanist vision has progressed beyond philosophy. It is fact. Look around you. Cybernetics are a fact of everyday life. The synthesis of man and machine is the crowning achievement of humanity as a people. I believe that we are well on our way to a truly post-human future, one in which the synthesis of man and machine is perfected to the point that the term becomes interchangeable, like Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. I'd rather watch that, though. In such a future, the capacity for unlimited self-repair would be indistinguishable from immortality. As you can see then why the theft of my research comes as such a blow. My former colleagues hadn't just stolen from me; they'd taken my contribution to the future of our species and reduced it to a bargaining chip. Seems a bit highly of yourself, don't you think? This sounds a little bit far-fetched to me. No offense. He chuckles softly. None taken. I have long since grown accustomed to such responses. I'll admit my vision of the future may sound overly optimistic, but it's a future that I'm sure is coming all the same. He rises, brushes himself off. And with that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to bid you good night. I've taken enough of a break for one evening, and there's still work to be done. It would be lax of me to put it aside any longer. Well, thanks, Rector. That was interesting. Yeah, he nods at you. Good night. All right. Yeah, that was a long chat. Yeah, let's see how Duncan's doing. We'll get rest after talking to everyone. Hey, bro, what's up? You enter Wu's cabin to find him moving through some sort of stretching routine. His muscles ripple as he flows tranquility from one pose to the next. You look different, Pykel. I look older, right? Yeah, like I flipped forward a few chapters instead of turning a page. I mean, you look like you're not the you I knew. Sounds like song lyrics. Wu chuckles. No more song lyrics for me. I gave that dream a long time ago. Remember how Lockjaw used to make fun of my singing voice? He smiles. His teeth are perfect. He said I sounded like a frog with a heart on. He shrugs. I thought my voice was distinctive. I mean, I'm no Maria Mercurial, but I think she's mentioned a couple of times in the games as being a famous singer. I'm trying to remember if we actually not interact with her personally, but like someone who knows her. I think so in Dragonfall, if I recall. So what about you? He gives you a once-over. How are you doing? Yeah, let's see. No, this is another one of those just like personal background choices. Kind of pissed at Raymond for getting us into this whole thing. Don't misplace your anger. This isn't Raymond's fault, whoever took him. He makes eye contact with you, acknowledges that an alternative is possible. Or killed him. They're the one and the same. Maybe, but the Rays ones that got us into this. If I'm right and he's alive, we'll be the ones to get him out of it. He picks up an ammo box and begins using it like a dumbbell. You seem like a natural leading this crew, Pykel, but I still don't completely understand. What do you get out of being a Shadowrunner? Let's see. Freedom. I'm not a cog in the corporate machine. Sure you're not, he chuckles to himself. Come on, Pykel, think of it. Of course you're a cog. Everyone's a cog. Whether you're working for them, consuming their crap, getting brainwashed by the news media that they control, voting for the people that they put in front of you, or being policed by people that they own. You're a cog, and you're the lowest kind of cog. A Shadowrunner, a disposable asset, sinless, slithering through the cracks of society, doing jobs that are too dirty for the core to do themselves. You don't even appear on a corporate balance sheet. Runners can be more than that. They can move their own agenda, fight the power. I've never heard of a story where a Shadowrunner did something other than kill someone, steal something, or perpetuate some other sort of shady shit. But good luck with that. Wu watches you, waiting for you to say something. You thinking about getting chromed up? With cyber? He shakes his head. Oh my god, how many times are you going to ask me that? At least a dozen more times. You always have the best reactions. Wu grins. His teeth are blindingly white. I told you, one time I was thinking about it when I was 13. Let it go. I'm not going to pollute my body with that shit. You? Archetype. Obviously, you could. It's another personal preference, but if you're a mage, you could be like, I'm a mage, remember? Chrome and magic go together like crude oil and peanut butter. Yeah, I guess you got a point there. That's a good thing, by the way. Better keep yourself whole and in touch with the world around you. May not have magic, but I know that's true. What do you think about the last run? Oh man, you remember that Mega Shred video where he snuck into that one night? The one where the mummy took over Chicago? Terran Reborn. Yeah, that was an old favorite. He nods. That's the one. Completely freaked me out. I slept with the dumpster lid shut for a week. What a pleasure it was to go on a run that brought back some such hideous memories. I still can't believe that you made a deal with that thing. I mean, it was a mummy, Pykel. You don't make deals with mummies. He cradles his head in his hands. Fuck, I can't believe I just said that. I didn't know the Shadowrunners dealt with crap like this. Can't say I'm a fan, Pykel, not even a little bit. Anyway, enough with that. Need anything else? I want to talk about you and me. He rested his eyes on you for a moment, his face neutral. Yeah, I guess now's as good a time as any. You start. Seems like Carter's death hit you pretty hard. Wu continues stretching. Yeah, she was a good one. We were a real team. Joining Lone Star helped me in all sorts of important ways, no doubt about it. I really embraced being a cop. I studied my ass off. But no matter how hard I worked, I was never more than a model cop with a brutal streak. There were plenty of assignments that were perfect for a big, mean orc like me. Assignments that could have fed my need to hurt people. But I met Carter about a year in, and she changed things. She talked about values and goals and priorities and constructing the life that you want to live. She was a real trip. Yeah, not my thing. I know, I think you two would have gotten along, though. I think you shared something like a worldview, maybe. Carter understood how fucked up the world was, but compartmentalized it so she could focus on whatever she was doing at the time. She reminded me of you in a lot of ways. She kept me focused. When Raymond asked me to meet him in Hong Kong, I had a feeling I was going to wind up going off the reservation if I didn't bring Carter along. And now she's gone, and here am I. It might be time to stop looking for someone to hold your leash, Duncan. Man, I wish you'd put that a different way, Pykel, but I get what you're saying. I don't want to be anyone's attack dog anymore. Wu folds his arm across his chest and nods to himself, satisfied. You're not acting like the Duncan Wu that I grew up with. What made you decide to become a cop? I needed structure bad. You know that better than anyone. I was already hardcore when we met, Mr. Ultraviolence. I'd do anything to get a rise out of the guys I was rolling with. Gouging eyes and inverting knees, curb stomping. That shit got me cheers. I was like a pit fighter, bloodletting for the crowd, and I learned to enjoy it. But I never learned how to block out the memories of their screams while I was lying in bed at night. The guilt started eating me alive, and then I was scared to be alone with my thoughts. So I tried to drown them out with all things that you drown things out with. I remember that you were pretty messed up when we met. He shakes his head sadly. Yeah, I was, but I got a lot better when we found a squad together, and even better when we went to live with Ray. I was still a violent son of a bitch, but basically under control. That was because of you, Wiggles. You were the voice of reason and the brains. That sounds about right. Of course it does. When we ran the streets together, I was the muscle and you called the shots. You pointed and I hit. But later after Ray got me some counseling, I realized I let you call the shots so that I wouldn't have to because I knew that what I wanted was wrong. But following your lead, I was deflecting my own guilt onto you. It was your decision, not mine. I could just knock heads and walk away clean, you know. Don't look at me. I'm just doing what I'm told. And then you left. Without you there, I knew that I was in a serious trouble, the poster boy for anger management issues. Raymond could provide a stable environment, a decent therapist, and money for prescriptions, but you know Raymond. He's an egghead engineer with a philanthropistic streak, not a drill sergeant. A drill sergeant is what I needed. I needed structure and discipline in a way that he couldn't offer me. I needed a cage to keep myself in line. Kind of like when some kids need like the army, that type of situation, because it puts structure into them that maybe your parents can't do because they don't want to do that to you, stuff like that. It just depends on the kid and the situation, though. I found myself a cage made of rules and procedures and training. Lone Star. Raymond helped me with my application, provided a decent character reference. Got in and helped a lot. Lone Star got me where I needed to be, and now it's all gone. And you're back. You've been waiting a long time to ask me about the night I left, haven't you? Wu chuckles and hooks his thumb into his belt. I guess I have, yeah. It's about what you were doing before you got thrown into the court facility. You said you needed to see a guy about a big deal. Had to go. And the dialogue is slightly different depending on how you answered him earlier before. Fabulous. Never actually happened, but the negotiations were fun. Let's drop it. Whatever you say, Pykel. Do you ever think about when we were kids? He begins moving through some sort of pattern. Might be Tai Chi. I try not to. What are you talking about exactly? The time we moved with the time before we moved in with Raymond and Miss Maloney. Oh, the dark times. We're not exactly talking about an idyllic youth here, Pykel. Sleeping in dumpsters, running into ghouls, fighting over scraps. Wu stops moving and drifts off for a moment, and defending your territory. If we hadn't found that spot in the abandoned building, found a lockjaw and double tray, we probably wouldn't be here. So weird to think about that now. I mean, you realize that we were teenagers, right? Younger than Gobbet. They felt so old back then. The lockjaw couldn't have been more than 17 tops, and double tray was only 13 when... Wu paused again, lost in thought. Why were you thinking about back then? I miss the clarity of that life. Scrounge for food, defend your squad, watch each other's backs. Wu returns to his patterns. He manipulates an imaginary soap bubble between his hands. Clarity, huh? We were living between the red-hot nukes and the 162s. Crazy-ass dwarf anarchists on one side and the fleshing ghouls on the other. Those are the days that you long for. Long for? No, I was thinking about that it's the same as now as it was back then. His raspy baritone fills the space between you and bridges it. Survive and watch each other's backs. Yeah, I know. Let's talk later. Yeah, later, but would be good. Don't get me wrong, catching up is nice, but I'm not used to being I'm not being used to being as social as this. This is one of the reasons why it was so nice to work with Carter, under Carter. We both appreciate long silences. Hey, if you sorry, man. She seems like good people. It's all good. She's gone. I've accepted that. I guess it's just been a big day is all. Anyway, good talk. I'll catch up with you later. All right. Nice to see Duncan is taking it with however he does. Let's see Isabel. And talking with Isabel is important because her quest can affect the end of the game, so best to communicate with her on a regular basis. Isabel is jacked into the octopus. Her body sits inert, her breathing shallow. As you approach, an image blossoms onto the largest of the octopus view screens. Hello down there, it's good to see you again. She smiles down on you from the monitor, her outline scintillating with blue-white light. She looks peaceful, at ease. Nice avatar, that's a good look on you. Isn't it? I spent months customizing this avatar. She feels more real to me than my own skin. You feel at home in the Matrix, don't you? You look happy in there. I suppose that I am. It's a comfort thing. As long as I'm jacked in, I can be whoever I want to be, whatever I want to be. Out here in meat space, I usually feel uncomfortable in my own skin. The avatar offers you a lopsided smile. I'd probably just live in here if I could. I've heard about deckers who tried it. Never turned out well. Dehydration is a bad way to go. I know, of course I was joking, but truth be told, I do spend most of my time out there, wishing that I were back in here. If you were a decker, you'd feel the same. It's hard to live in a cage of meat when you know how sweet it feels to leave your body behind. She pauses for a moment, considering, then her avatar shimmers forward, filling the screen, a slight frown across her face. You know, Wiggles, I've been thinking about the question you asked me a little while back, the one about the walled city. The avatar fidgets. The one that the dodged? I mean, you don't have to make a big deal out of it, Isabel. It's fine. It isn't, though. Not really. I cheated you out of an answer that I owed you. For what it's worth, I wasn't trying to do that. It's just talking about the walled city is problematic for me. I understand I grew up in the Barrens. I know how hard it can be to talk about this stuff. No, it isn't that. I'm not explaining myself correctly. It isn't that I'm tortured by bad memories or anything like that. The problem is that I can't remember my childhood. The walled city, that entire chapter of my life, is nothing but a blur to me. I can give you general information about the life on the inside, but the specifics of my own experiences are gone. Gone? What do you mean gone? Do you have amnesia or something? Something like that. The avatar fidgets on the screen. There were a variety of factors in play. The upshot of all this is that there are things that I can tell you about, but only a few and only in bold strokes. Don't expect any personal stories. I couldn't share them even though I wanted to. So, if it's okay with you, and if you'll be satisfied with trivia and urban legends, then we can talk. Just say the word. Otherwise, we'll at least... now you know why. Any thoughts about the last run? She shakes her head. Nope, sorry. Checking into the octopus is how I relax after a long day of work. Some people go to sports bars and strip clubs. I do this. As a rule, I don't spoil my leisure time with shop talk. But we're already talking shop, aren't we? There's a difference between the job and our lives. It's after hours, and I don't want to talk about work. So if you wouldn't mind changing the subject... She lets the sentence hang. How'd you lose your childhood memories? The Isabel avatar frowns. I'd rather not go into it. It's personal. Suffice to say, I never missed them, at least not until now. You know, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm a good listener. She looks away. Great, I'll keep that in mind. Give me what you can about the walled city. At this point, anything would help. Alright. The avatar licks its lips, nods. I can do that. Isabella's avatar turns, begins to pace on the screen where she steps. Spiderwebs of light spreads across the tilted ground of the octopus's sculpted matrix hub. When I think of the walled city, the thing that stands out the most in my mind is the legends, the mythology of the place. If I hadn't lived with them, I might have found those stories fascinating. The scintillating figure turns to you on the screen. Do you know that Kowloon Walled City is supposed to be cursed? That's what the locals believe. We had ghost stories and everything. Of course you had ghost stories. Every place has ghost stories. Spirits are real, Isabel. Not the ones that we talked about. Our stories didn't concern city spirits or spirits of man or any other supernatural phenomenon. We had our own homegrown legends about demons from another place, imagery and monsters that haunted the walled city, the Yama Kings. And then you can ask her about that, but if you have etiquette, you can say Yama Kings, derived from the mythological judge of the dead, I presume. That was where they came from, yeah. But the Yama Kings that we told stories about were their own things, bastardization of the original myths. It'd probably be easier to think of them like urban legends, our own little pantheon of monsters and morality tales. The stories are still clear in my mind even after everything that happened. Everyone in the walled city believed in them. You can get out of the walled city if you make a deal with Fu Mang. Cut the heart from the 44 people closest to you and bring them to him. He will reward you with riches. Don't go under that arch, or Quan Ya will catch you. The avatar grabs at the air, its hands leaving glowing trails as they move. She'll rip out your teeth, tie your tongue in a knot, and make you her slave for eternity. We had Shi Xiang, our own homegrown judge of souls. People would let themselves be flayed alive in hopes they'd reawaken them in a better life. And we had Lam Yi, the ebony queen who teach you to hide so well that you slowly mutate into a cockroach. The avatar cocks its head, smirking, a dismissive gesture. It's all bullshit, of course, but everybody in the walled city believed it. If you're so convinced that these things are myths, why everyone in the walled city believe in them? Because that's their excuse. My parents and neighbors, their whole generation invented the things to explain away their own feelings. I can't get ahead because demons are keeping me down. Woe is me, woe is me. It's almost embarrassingly transparent when you really look at it. Lam V turning people into cockroaches? It's just a Kafkaesque trope layered into a morality tale. Xin Xiang? He's just Anubis with a different coat to paint. And you know what that archway that I mentioned? The one that Quan Ya was supposed to haunt? I knew someone who found it. There was nothing on the other side but concrete. It's all superstitious drivel, Wiggles. The misery in the walled city isn't the fault demons or devils. We created it, and we perpetuated it. We blamed made-up monsters for our own failings. There's nothing more pathetic than that. Sounds less like you're trying to convince me than it does like you're trying to convince yourself. I don't need to convince myself of anything. I'm telling you this for your benefit, not mine. Anyway, thanks for that's enough for now. I'm sure that gives you plenty to chew on. My obligation to give you an answer is satisfied. I think so. Let's talk about something else. Can you think of anything else at all that night that might help us? I don't know. Maybe. I'll put some thought into it. The avatar pauses, turns away. After a moment, Isabel's voice pours through the Tridio speakers. On second thought, maybe I do have an idea. Are you open to taking on more work? Of course. Conway's sending me new job offers all the time. This wouldn't be work for Auntie Cheng. Think of it as a side gig that you'd be doing for me. I think I've got a line on some software that could help us. I can't get to it on my own, though. It's a two-person job at least. What kind of software? It's kind of hard to explain. It'd be easy for me to just show you, but trust me, it'll help. I have the run of all planned out already. I've done the legwork. I know the location. I know the target. Just say the word and I'll send everything I have to your mission computer. You go get over, weigh it, and decide what you want to do. Alright, send the file. The Isabel avatar closes his eyes for a moment, then opens them with a smile. Done. You'll find the pertinent documents waiting in your inbox. If you decide to accept the mission, just click the box on the message documentaries and it'll ping my comm link automatically. Alright, can't wait to find out what this is all about. I'm sure that that briefing I sent you will satisfy your curiosity. Trust me, Wiggles, this is a good job with a solid plan behind it. You'll see as soon as you've rented it. Speaking of which, you should go do that now. Say no more. I'll check it out. The avatar beams at you. Fantastic. I can't wait to hear what you think. But yeah, if you want to make sure to do Isabel's story if you're looking to affect the ending of the game. Or getting the choice to get that ending anyway. You don't have to, but, you know, you can give your options a variety. But anyway, let's talk to Gobbet. Gobbet looks at you from a dented tin of oysters at the sound of your approach. Her rats, madness and folly, scurry from her hips to her shoulders. Two sets of beady red eyes fix themselves on you. Hey, killer, oyster. She spears a gray lump of seafood with a fingernail and extends it to you. It smells like low tide at a municipal pier. Eat the oyster. Sure, why not? You pop the rubbery wad of flesh into your mouth and chew. An explosion of lukewarm brine is your reward. Good, right? By the way, I hate oysters. In real, have repressed memories of dumpster diving in the Barrens dance a merry jig in your brain as the mangled oyster slides down your throat. That was vile, Gobbet. Come on, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's seafood and isn't made of soy. That's gotta count for something, right? She tilts back the tin, draining the remaining juices, and then flicks it into the overflowing bin on the other side. Waste not, want not. What can I do for you? Any thoughts about the last round? Gobbet positively vibrates with excitement, clapping her hands together with a huge grin. That was awesome! Think about it. We broke into some rich jerk's manor house, stole his artifacts so he could go to a museum, and we fought mummies. If that's not the plot of a Trid Blopus, I don't know what is. I'm not sure what I think about that mummy trinket. I've never had a dead person owe me a favor before. I'm not even sure how that works. Be careful when you use that trinket. As long as he does what we tell him to, that's pretty awesome. But if the Trids taught me anything, it's that mummies are always waiting for an excuse to run around cursing everybody. I watched Brendan Fraser's The Mummy and the old original Mummy with Boris Karloff. Both are good in their own ways. How do you like life on the bolt? That's all I need. How do you like life on the bolt hole? It's fine. Shaping up. Having new roomies is always nice. She smiles. How are you enjoying your cabin? Comfy enough for you? Isn't half bad. Better than some of the places I squatted in back in the Barrens. I've heard stories about the Redmond Barrens. Sounds like a real winner of a place. Kowloon isn't any better, of course, but at least our little slice of home is safe. And it's true. It's handy having a mob boss on our side. Yeah, handy. Annie Chang is definitely that. She half frowns. Don't know if I'd say that she's on our side, though. Yeah, I know what you mean. Of course you do. Let's change the subject, huh? I'd rather not think about the old woman right now. You know the bolt hole is a pretty mediocre name for a ship. Ever consider changing it? Yeah, sure, considering it's a bunch of times. I never really cared enough to actually do it, though. She shrugs. You want to call her something else? I'm open to it. Let's see. Could call it Defiance, Revenge, Dowager's Empress, Kraken, the Big Texas. Bullhole's actually pretty funny. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe the Kraken. I forgot. I think the first time I played it, I think I called it the Dowager Empress just to be funny. Yeah, release the Kraken. I could call it just Big Texas just because that's I gave her the southern accent. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's call it Big Texas. She does her best to stifle a laugh. Yeah, sure. That's pretty good, killer. You got a good gold star for that one. You don't like it, do you? I think that's absurd, but then we live in a pretty ridiculous world, so why not roll with it? The corner of her mouth curls up. Yeah, the Big Texas is just what we'll call her. I'm sure that Iz will be thrilled. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can change it if you don't like that concept, by the way. So, anyway, you said that you'd teach me how to be a better Shadowrunner. I'm here to collect. Still remember that, do you, huh? I'd sort of just assumed that you laugh that off. No dice, wizened mentor. You offered, now pay up. She straightens. Okay, how about this? I'll tell you a story about a run gone bad. You tell me what you've done in the runner's place, and then we'll compare roles on your answer. How's that sound? You tell me, you're the teacher, remember? Right, it sounds good. Of course it does. So that's what we'll do. She sweeps the tangled rope of hair out of her eyes and back over one pointed ear. After a moment of silent contemplation, she bites her lip and nods. Okay, so this is a story from earlier in my career. I was part of a team here in HK, but I did some occasional moonlight for another group based out of Macau. I was a busy kid. Early in your career? So you were like, what, 12 years old? Her eyes narrow in a mock indignation. You say that like I couldn't have been. When I was 12, I could have destroyed you. And also, I was 16, practically an adult in orc years. We grow up fast. Yeah, I forgot the age of expectancy of orcs. I think it's only like 50 or 60 or something like that in the Shadowrun universe. They live pretty short lives. I think they're the short-lived of the races, if I recall, or the metahumans in this case, because it wouldn't be technically be a race because they were technically humans that were transformed due to magic. So, oh well, anyway, it's details. Anyway, the job was a hit on this tower in sort of a trid multiplex / apartment complex. I'm sure they've got them in Seattle too. You know that kind, 7 huge screens, monster concession stands, coffin apartments on top like barnacles on a whale. I lived in one for a while. Every time they showed an action movie, the walls would shake. She nods. Yeah, that'll happen. Our client wanted us to break into one of the apartments. The story was that an ex of hers, a guy named Boggs, lived there. She'd been cooped up with him until about a week prior. Then things went sour in a big way. She wanted us to get back some things that Boggs kept when he kicked her out. Scare the shit out of him, bloody him up a bit, make it look like a robbery. You know the drill. Sounds like more of a job for thrill gangers than full-fledged Shadowrunners. Yeah, it was a pretty bush league gig, but the pay was decent enough. Not the sort of thing you turn down. So anyway, semblance, that was our group leader had a plan. We knew that we had to go in quiet because the Metaplex had a panic system wired directly to the HKPF. We got in shooting, we'd been drowning in cops within 10 minutes. Sib thought we could take advantage of the apartment's terrible soundproofing and kick Boggs' door down when the movie got loud. We camp out near his doorway, wait for the ceiling to start raining plaster, and then smash our way in with his neighbors none the wiser. And then you could ask about the plan or whatever, but if you have academics, you go, this sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, it's pretty close to what John Wilkes Booth did when he assassinated Lincoln. I'm surprised she knows that, and we know that. But anyway, Sib was an amateur historian, used to bore the rest of us to tears, but I guess that could occasionally come in handy. So we waited in the hall just like Semblance planned. We had a guy in an elevator and another on the stairs. I was waiting by the floor's communal kitchen. Sib took up position by the door. She had these cyber legs that she dumped a ton of Nuyen into, though. Hydraulic jacks, strength enhancements, worked. Girl could probably leg press a dump truck. She paused for a moment. Come to think of it, most of her planes involved kicking things. There's something a little sad about that. And this woman was the best suited to lead this particular group of runners? Tragically, yes. Everyone else was various shades of immoral or screwed in the head. Silmus might have had a tendency to solve all her problems the same way, but she's better than the alternative. Anyway, we had a boom from downstairs. Felt the well shake with the reverb. Sid wheeled back and gave the door a massive kick, just as she planned. From here, where I was standing, I couldn't really see what happened next. I could hear a massive crack as her boots slammed into the Duraplast. The door flew off its hinges. Exploded off might be a more accurate phrase. A second later, we heard an ungodly crash. There was a moment of silence. Then Sid let out this little gasp. The apartment was in shambles. It looked like a hurricane hit it. Everything was trashed, everything but the door, which was meticulously still in one piece. Remember that this was a coffin apartment? It wasn't much wider than the door was to begin with. And Boggs, well, what was left of him was under the door, too. Well, you got the rough him up part right. Yeah, fortunately, he wound up a lot rougher than he was supposed to be. Her nose crinkles in discomfort. That door really did a number on him. Ribs sticking out of his skin, that kind of thing. It was a bloody mess. So yeah, Boggs was dead. The stuff that we'd been sent to the apartment to recover had been smashed to bits. And then the building alarm went off. So that's the situation. Our payday is smashed. My temporary teammates are all standing around with stupid looks on their faces. The cops are coming. I'm standing by the kitchen. She plants her hands on her hips, smiling. What would you have done in my place? Well, that's an interesting thing. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't really matter. There's more just like personal preference choices. I would have tried to improvise. Was there anything in the kitchen you could have used to resolve the situation? Good thinking. As it happens, there was. I knew just what to do with it. The thought popped into my head, and I just went with it. She taps her temple with a smile. That's a lesson. Remember, killer. The first answer you come up with is almost always the best one you're going to have, so just roll with it. Don't second guess yourselves. Don't hesitate. Just act. You'll live no longer that way. Got it. Now when I think crowded theaters, I think place where you can't shout fire because it'll cause a panic. And I thought, cops don't charge into burning buildings. They help people get out of them. And as it happened, I had the means to create real, genuine fire sitting right across from me. A pair of industrial ovens. Gubbin, I don't think that I can imagine an idea much worse than that. No? Well, then the joke's on you, because I carried it out fantastically. I opened the gas vents wide and set the range on a timer and motored back into the hallway. The others had started arguing amongst themselves. I told them to snap out of it and follow me down to the lobby. We had to clear the hallway before an errant spark takes the whole floor out. I said, sounded pretty reasonable to me. Unfortunately, the rest of the group wouldn't listen. Sib and the rest of the team were too busy arguing about the relative merits of her let's kick things really hard and see what happens tactical system to want anything to do with me. I shouted back to them that the kitchen was going to explode and continue down the hallway. Just like I planned, I got out of that run in one piece. So did every single one of the people in that megaplex. My fire plan worked beautifully. If the rest of the team had listened to me, they might have gotten out of the building too. Kind of a bummer that they didn't, but at least the run turned out well for me. All's well that ends well, I guess. That's right. You take what you're given and make the best of it. And that's what I did. I couldn't collect any pay, of course. The run had been a disaster. But after the explosion, I got to ride in front of the fire truck, and they gave me cookies and a blanket. I wound up dating one of those firemen a few weeks later. So it all worked out in the end. Gubbit clasps her hands together and rubs them, a satisfied look on her face. So, killer. The laughter disappears from her voice, and her expression goes serious. It's like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, the look in her eyes is shrewd, calculating. Tell me, what was the moral of the story? What lesson was I trying to convey? Go with your gut, I guess. She nodded sagely. That's right. Trust your impulses and don't be afraid to wing it. Almost any action is better than no action at all. Anyway, once you've committed to doing something, you've got to follow it through, though. No arguing or hard ringing. Just do it. If you get caught up in your own head, agonizing over past mistakes, well, don't be surprised if you wind up dead. A kitchen fire can take you down as easily as a cop's bullet if you stand around and let it. Are you certain that Semblance and the rest of the Macau team are dead? She shrugs. They weren't with me when I got evacuated with the rest of the moviegoers. I never saw them leave the building, and I haven't heard from them since. I guess it's possible that someone made it, but I don't really run in those circles anymore. Odds are good that if anyone from a cow team did survive, they'd have died off by now from sheer incompetence. Shadowrun is an unforgiving business. You don't get to make too many mistakes. Did any of the stuff in that story actually happen, or do you just make it up for my benefit? Killer, I'm hurt. It all went down exactly like I said it did. She pauses. Well, except for a couple of embellishments here and there, but they'll make it better story. Artistic license and all that. Goblin leans back and stifles a yawn. Madness and folly dart up to her left shoulder and lock their beady eyes on you. Hate to break it to you, kiddo, but I'm beat. It's been a long day. Lesson's over for now. We pick it back up next time. Aren't I technically older than her? Yeah, exactly. Why are you calling kiddo? I'm older than you are. Yeah, whatever. She makes a brushing motion with her fingers. Scurry along now. You're meant to need a rest. I got it. She's always interesting to talk to. Like I said, that's probably why she's a fan favorite. All right, before we call it an episode, let's take a quick nap and also talk to Kindly Chang about some other missions. I want to get the rest of the dialogue out of the way so we can actually do a mission next episode. You wake with a start, and your limbs bound up in a sweaty tangle of linen bedsheets. An incredible sorrow swells in your chest. You feel empty, half-starved, and alone. Fragmentary memories of half-remembered dreams fit through your mind. They're already fading away to nothing. Chase the memories. You close your eyes and concentrate, willing yourself to keep the dream from slipping away. Gradually, the memory comes back to you. The walled city. You were back in the walled city. You don't remember how you got there, but it couldn't have been any place else. Even the barrens weren't so squalid. You remember craning your neck to look above you. The buildings that made up this part of the walled city were new construction, even cheaper than the old. Now their foundations had rotted out from under them, and the buildings leaned into one another like a gang of drunken men. A rain of plaster and asbestos sprinkled down, dusting your shoulders. You begin to creep forward, picking up your way past the piles of refuse and debris, past the pimps and dumpster fires, the broken glass and the dirty needles. There reeked of rotten sewage and industrial waste, a disgustingly melange that caught in your sinuses and crawled down your throat. You gagged on the stink, but it didn't slow you down. In the back of your mind, you knew that you had no reason to be doing this. There was nothing for you in the walled city. You shouldn't have been here. But the rest of you was hungry, unbearably, indescribably hungry, and that part of you knew that if you kept moving, you'd finally get to eat. As you forced your way deeper into the walled city, locals stood at their windows and stared. Inexplicably, some of them dropped to their knees. You kept moving. You could see something in the distance, a silhouette, something enormous, at least twice the size of a troll, but delicate. It was beautiful. The huge figure beckoned you, gestures with slender limb. An explosion of warmth filled your chest, and you knew that if only you could reach it, your problems would be over. She would make all of her sorrows disappear. You moved forward at a crawl, but the figure felt impossibly far away. You reach out, calling her, and then you woke up. The empty feeling in your stomach slowly fades, taking the strength and vibrance of the memories along with it. Strange. But what could that mean? Well, for later. Later. Much later. Anyway, let's go talk to Kindly Chang and about some mission stuff. Yeah, let's talk to Kindly Chang before we talk to her associate for the job. Kindly Chang appears to be nearing the end of a harsh exchange with Strangler Bao, who is listening intently. So you tell that little pustule that Auntie Chang isn't fucking happy, you get it? Not happy at all. Don't tell him that I'm displeased. Don't tell him that I didn't take it well. She slams her shot glass on the table. Tell him that I'm extremely chopping mad, and if he doesn't want what happened to Yi to happen to him, he better get his head and his ass wired together and get me that payment today. She raises an eyebrow. Was that message clear enough, Mr. Bao? Yes, Miss Chang. Bao's gaze flits from the triad Bao's to you. He locks his eyes on yours and holds them there as he responds. I'll make sure that he understands the situation he's in. Chang's voice turns treacle sweet when she sees you waiting for her. Our newly minted Shadowrunners. How are you taking the role, Wiggles? Like a duck to water, Auntie. I have no doubt, my sweet. I have a nose for talent. And how's Mr. Gung Sho doing with his new life? He should be okay. Just needs some time to get used to all this. Very good, my dear. Very good. She smiles. Was there something specific you came to see me about? Any word on the plastic face man? Kindly Chang picks up a mahjong towel, tosses it into the pile at the center of the table. Not yet. He's elusive, clear a man who knows how to stay out of the public eye. But I have my network working day and night to find him, and I still have some favors I could call in if need be. I'll find him if it's only a matter of time. I have good news as well. One of my people managed to tap the communications of the HKPF's Special Duties Unit. If any word of our plastic-faced friend or if Raymond Black crosses that door, I'll be the first to know. But for now, go on your business. I'm sure that more work will come your way any moment. I'll contact you when there is news. All right. And then let's talk to Mr. Shen Yang about another job. A rotund, balding dwarf in a cheap suit turns to face you. Light glints from his heavy gold chains that hangs about his neck. When he speaks, the voice that greets your ears is high and nasal, and it has been contorted into a rough approximation of a New York accent. Pleased to meet ya. Chang was... no, that's not... I can't do a New York accent. Oh, Boston. No. Pleased to meet ya. Chang was kind enough to arrange his little sit-down between us. He extends a slab-like hand for you to shake. You can call me Dr. Shen Yang. Pleased to meet you. I'm Wiggles. His grip is soft as his palm is moist. It's like shaking hands with a boneless ham. You share a long, uncomfortable, flaccid handshake before he finally releases you. I'm looking for a little outside help on a problem I've been having. Ordinarily, I'd handle myself or have some of my friends see to it, but it's kind of delicate, you know. My guys have been noticed before they made any headway on my problem, so I figured that I may hire some contractors all this time. Might as well get some contractors on a different stripe. Lasting friendships are made through favors and exchange. I'm all ears. I run a little film studio, Southern Crown Films. We mostly do trid work, but we record some Sims too. Maybe you've seen some of my stuff. Space Mongols from the Moon, The Flavor of the Pomegranates, Ultimate Kill Squad. No, but I like the sound of Ultimate Kill Squad. How much killing do they do? He offers you a chip-toothed grin. A lot, but there's only one scene where two trolls gang up on an elf and they... Well, I don't want to spoil it, but believe me, it is glorious. I'll send a copy over to Chang that can make you take a look. Anyway, there's other guy in the industry, and we've been buddy heads since day one. Name is Neville Ma. He runs Yellow Spring Studios. No matter what I do, I can't shut him out of the biz. He always manages to get one on over me, steal my stars. He's been running me into the ground with this show called Promises in Moonlight. The star is a girl named Penelope Wong. New talent, but the viewers must have been going nuts over her. She's the show's linchpin. Hang on, I'm getting there. So about 6 months ago, Neville was out in Guangzhou for some hoity-toity party. He is on the road, probably drunk. A semi comes out of nowhere and pow, wrecks his fancy new Euro car Westwind. Bad luck for Neville, good luck for me. I figured, hey, that's the end of him for the year, and I start playing some new stuff he can't compete with from inside a hospital. You follow me so far? Let me guess, he found a way to compete with you from the hospital. No, worse, the bastard's out of the hospital. He's back in the game, bringing in a season 2 of Promises in Moonlight. I need that show off the air, one way or another, and that, my friends, is where you come in. Already? That's strange. Tell me about it. He should have been in the hospital for at least 3 months and in physical therapy a lot longer. Only took him like a week to get out. Couldn't freaking believe it. That kind of medical care costs top dollar. He's got a lot of money, but not that much. Recovery time, what that means that the two things is going on. Neville could have found himself a silent partner, someone willing to pay top dollar for cutting-edge care. I don't think it's likely, but it could happen. If it ain't that, the smart money says that he's been skimming off the top of the Yellow Springs earnings and not reporting them to the other shareholders. Tell me how I fit into this. I need you to go find me something to blackmail Neville with. Find out how he could afford to get out of the hospital so fast. He works out of this penthouse most days, so search his computer, closet, sock drawer, whatever. There's got to be something incriminating there. Where's this penthouse? Neville lives in the Repulse Bay. It's the real swanky joint in the south end of Hong Kong Island by the bay with the same name. I haven't been able to get anyone in to poke around his apartment because security's too tight. Lucky for you, though, Neville's throwing a party on the mezzanine level with all the shops and a restaurant and balcony and such. He's celebrating the second season launch of the show, and everyone's got to be there. Gonna make a real snarl for the building security. You might want to hit up the party if you can bluff your way in. Everyone close to Neville will be there, and most of them will be there 3 sheets to win by the time you get there. Some discreet questioning might get me the dirt that I need. Just remember, if you go to the party, don't use your real name. Go with Argyle. Should be safe enough with nobody in the biz out here with that name, so nobody asks you any questions about how your work's doing. Gotta say, Dr. Shen Yang, this job sounds pretty underhanded to me. He snorts. Are you kidding me? Underhand is what I frame you for when I frame you indecent acts on your last trip to Cambodia. Blackmail is just business. Now, the blackmail material that I need more than anything, but you can get Penelope Wong out of her contract. I'll pay you extra, got it? I want that star power on my side. One last thing. I don't want you starting a scene while you're there. You and our party make a mess or trash your apartment, and I'm not paying you. You clear on that? Why the concern? If you're going to hamstring me before I even go on the run, I want to know why. Because it's gauche. I can't have Ma knowing I'm attacking him. In my business, everyone's got dirty tricks, but if you make it public, you're using them? Dr. Shen Yang draws a finger across his throat. That's it. My career is as dead as Penelope's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China. Nobody will work with me ever again. So don't embarrass me. Hey? Got it. Reputation is important. I'll make sure that yours remains intact. Good to hear it. Listen, you do this for me. I'll make sure you're not only paid well, but also tell all my friends that you'll come highly recommended. Sure. Sounds like a deal. Then he grins. His grin widens. Good man. That's what I like to hear. And when you're done, drop Chang a line. I'll meet you back here, and I'll hand over the money. All right. Well, looks like we unlocked quite a few jobs there, talked to our companions, and learned a little bit about just the world in general. But what awaits us on our next mission? We got to get paid somehow. I feel like it's time to put on our sleuthing cap and time to solve a mystery. But find out next time in the next episode of Shadowrun Hong Kong. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.